The jungle of Zalara did not forgive weakness. It swallowed dreadnoughts and erased empires. Tonight, it waited for Kalen. Her scribe's tunic was shredded, blue blood running down her arm to hiss against the acidic moss. She was no warrior. She had lost her detachment, lost her datapad, lost her way. The Vanguard Empire did not rescue liabilities. They purged them. She pulled the activation pin on her standard-issue immolation charge. She closed her eyes. Then the unmistakable scent of roasted root vegetables drifted through the glowing vines. Join us in the quiet corners of the galaxy, where the most terrifying anomalies are often the most ordinary. 9 hours earlier, the hardest thing Kalen had to process was a misaligned data stylus. Now she was a target. The transition from archivist to prey had been brutal, leaving her with a fractured shoulder and a hollow chest. She dragged her ruined leg through the glowing underbrush. The tremors of Vanguard hunters shook the deep soil behind her. Heavy, rhythmic, inevitable. She pushed blindly through a curtain of bioluminescent leaves, expecting the sharp burn of a plasma rifle. She found a fire. A human sat cross-legged in a small clearing, stirring a dented metal pan. He wore mismatched salvage gear, humming a low, discordant tune. He lifted the pan, sniffed the bubbling contents critically, and sprinkled something from a worn fabric pouch. "Needs salt," he muttered. Salt! In an active purge zone. Kalen's legs finally gave out. She collapsed onto the damp earth, the impact sending white heat through her shoulder. She expected the human to panic. She expected him to grab a weapon or scream. He just set down his spoon. Hungry. Her mind stalled completely. She had prepared for ritual execution, for the final flash of, wait, he was already kneeling beside her. His hands moved with terrifying efficiency, pulling a compact cylinder from his thigh pouch. He sprayed a thick, expanding foam over her wound. It hardened instantly, biting into her skin but sealing the ruptured veins. No Vanguard military tags, he noted quietly, inspecting her tattered uniform. Logistics, right? That explains why they're hunting you instead of extracting you. I'm Jax, by the way, civilian surveyor. He was small. He lacked dermal plating, bioenhancements, or visible weaponry. Yet there was a profound, unsettling stillness in him. "Why are you not afraid?" she rasped, her throat tasting of copper. Jax walked back to his dented pan. "Should I be?" The Vanguard conquered 12 systems this cycle. "Sounds exhausting," he replied, stirring the broth. There was no trembling, no bravado, just the terrifying calm of a creature that did not recognize its place at the bottom of the food chain. The ground shuddered violently. This time it was close. Thermal lights pierced the thick canopy. At least 8 armored hunters were sweeping the grid. What happens when an unstoppable empire meets a species that refuses to play by the rules? Panic flared in Kalen's chest. "They will find us," she whispered, struggling against the hardened foam to sit up. "Humans are soft. Slow. You must flee." Jax calmly picked up his dinner. Then he kicked dirt over the fire, instantly plunging the clearing into heavy darkness. "Can you walk?" he asked, his voice entirely devoid of panic. "Not far. Good enough." He hauled her up, slinging her good arm over his shoulder. "I always assume I'm outmatched, so I plan like it." They stepped into the heavy brush just as the Vanguard soldiers burst into the clearing. Armor servos whined as the hunters scanned the dark, their weapons tracking the residual heat of the buried fire. Kalen held her breath, waiting for the end. Jax simply tapped a small mechanism on his wrist. The jungle erupted. Bioluminescent moss flared with blinding, agonizing white light. Shock mines buried in the mud detonated, sending localized EMP bursts tearing through the canopy. Vanguard hunters roared in sudden blindness, their heavy armor servos locking up instantly as their optical sensors fried. "Walk," Jack said. They navigated the treacherous, acidic swamp for what felt like hours, moving through a landscape that actively tried to digest them, until the dense thicket finally gave way to a perfectly smooth, impossibly black crater that hummed with a terrifying, dormant intelligence. In the center of the depression stood a monolith, the Architect Vault, Jax set Kalen heavily against a petrified root. He peeled a fraying strip of duct tape from his cracked plastic thermos, using it to quickly secure a loose biomonitor on Kalen's makeshift splint. "They'll track the residual heat," Kalen gasped, watching the tree line. Before Jax could reply, the Vanguard commander breached the clearing. His armor was scorched, his optic visor cracked, but his plasma cannon was leveled directly at Jax's chest. "Step away from the relic, scavenger," the commander growled. Kalen stared at the rising black monolith. If the Vanguard secured this core, they could. A pulse of golden light silenced the jungle. The ground vibrated as the black metal shifted, reconfiguring itself with liquid grace. The commander fired, but his plasma bolt simply dissolved against the monolith's surface, absorbed without a trace. The vault woke up. It did not attack. Instead, it projected a massive holographic display across the crater. 3 distinct shapes floated in the mist. A colossal war engine, bristling with destructive potential. An impenetrable, shielded fortress world. And a delicate, sprawling network of interconnected stars. The ancient machine was not a weapon. It was a test. "Take the war engine," the Vanguard commander bellowed, his boots grinding against the dirt as an unseen energy barrier held him back. "Claim it." Jax didn't even flinch. He walked right past the shimmering projection of the war machine. "Weapons escalate," Jax said softly, reaching up. "Walls isolate." He pressed his bare hand against the glowing golden network. The Vanguard weapons died. Hours ago, Kalen had pulled the pin on her immolation charge, expecting the blinding flash of an agonizing end. Now, she watched a different kind of flash entirely. The golden network expanded outward in a silent shockwave, sweeping through the acidic jungle and shooting straight up into orbit. It did not destroy the Vanguard dreadnoughts. It rewrote their fundamental directives. Armor unlocked and fell open. Orbital cannons powered down. The Empire was not defeated by superior firepower, but by a forced, undeniable connection to the rest of the galaxy. The jungle of Zalara grew still. High above, the dreadnoughts powered down their main cannons, trapped in a forced peace. Kalen sat by a newly sparked fire, watching the humans scrape the bottom of his dented metal pan. The broth tasted like dirt and survival. It was the best thing she had ever eaten. What happens when the hunters become the students? We will be here tomorrow with another transmission from the unknown.